Greetings, Black family, and welcome to On the Wake Up Radio. Excuse me. I am your host, DC Radical One, and you have, excuse me again, goodness, you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at On the Wake Up Radio. While I try to do some house cleaning, have some things that I not totally prepared. Just being completely honest. Made a slight. Yeah, ready. Here we go. See who's in the building. BB4 Day Straight Black Pride, brother Elijah. BB4 Day Straight Black Pride, brother, you got ripped off. And BB4 Day Straight Black Pride to brother Kevin. Y'all let me know if my sound levels are good as I try to find tonight's music. So what happened is I had everything set up. Then I had a quick internet outage and got disconnected and had to set things back up. So that's why I'm a little discombobulated. Let's see what this is. So that's tonight's music, and tonight we're gonna do a case study. We're gonna do a case study on Orenthal James Simpson, who recently passed away, I believe, from cancer. And when I started thinking about OJ, really what happened was that I it was so interesting because when I looked at his life, in a very weird way, OJ is like he was like the prototype for the modern athlete in a lot of ways. And I know that sounds weird, but as we go through it, you'll see it. Everybody that remembers him basically just remembers him from the trial of the century at the end of the 20th century, last decade of the 20th century. And most people forget who he was before then and, the evolution. And so as we go through the evolution, you're going to see why I say he was very much in the relatively modern context, the prototype for what will become the modern athlete, very much so in the 21st century, weirdly enough. So one thing I want to talk about, I just want to talk about something personal first before we get into it, and let some more people come in. I figured a lot of people wouldn't come in for this particular discussion, because our people are gonna rightly say, man, OJ was a coon, and who cares if he did this and this and that. And I understand it, but it's still worth doing a case study because it's something the wise can learn from everyone, and most especially the fool. So, but on a personal note, I was able to this weekend go to the 56th anniversary celebration. I wish I had a picture of Ujima Shule, the oldest African Center school in the country. Their celebration was Friday night. I was on the verge of not going, but I pretty much gave Baba Zulu my word. And so I went. And I'm gonna just be completely honest. I so needed that atmosphere. Black Power to RBG Patah, BB488 to Raw, ISO Vital. I so needed that atmosphere because, and some of y'all might understand what I'm saying. In the modern, I'll say, okay, in the post pandemic Black America, man, there's just very few places you could go where you can celebrate our Blackness, celebrate our Africanity, be amongst people who share similar principles and enjoy wholesome entertainment. And so I was able to do that. You know, they had a live band. They had the children of they're taught, you know, they're taught drumming and dancing as part of the school curriculum. And plant-based eating and dressing in African attire. All of that is built into the curriculum. Like, if I'm not mistaken, and if I'm wrong, Baba Zulu will correct me, but if I'm not mistaken, even the parents have to, if they're going to participate in events and things like that, they have to dress in African attire. The children have to come dressed in African attire. So an African environment is set, you know, natural hair, or, you know, the whole nine. So when you hear other people talk about what they're going to do with their school, Baba Zulu been doing it almost 6 decades. You know what I'm saying? So realistically, if anybody wants to actually build it, find out how to build an institution, you know what I'm saying? He's literally the person to go to. So yeah, you know, like I said, I really enjoyed myself. Got to see him dance. Baba Zulu got to be 80 years old. Got to be. You know, he was out there getting down on the dance floor and everything. Nah, man, it was just a fantastic environment. And like I said, it was much needed. It was refreshing with all the things that have been going on and things I won't get into. But there's a lot of stuff going on just like crazy, especially here in DC. So yeah, I got to enjoy that. And I'm setting up an interview with Baba Zulu. Probably I'm gonna try to do it before the end of the month. That's what I'm gonna try to do. It's just a matter of whether or not I'm gonna do it. It's gonna be like, you know, like I do with Jeannie, where we're in 2 different places, or whether I'm gonna do it live. I kind of want to do it live, with, you know, us face to face or in the same room, whatever. But we'll see what his schedule looks like. So that's that. Also, I'm working on editing the Dr. Welsing lecture, as well as Sister Nina. All that's in the curriculum. As well as like I know one of the teachers, he also teaches capoeira, you know, for exercise and self-defense. So yeah, all that's built into the curriculum of the school. What was I getting ready to say? I'm editing the Dr. Welsing lecture. That'll be available again. Anybody that donates $20 more in a month, that will be available. And I'm working on the lectures that are based on the COVID-19 book that I can't even think of the author's name now. But anyway, I'm working on that. As well as this week, I got a lot of content that I'm gonna get out, because as you all may have seen, Tuesday, we're basically doing was kind of part 3 or at least part 2 of what is basically at this point might as well be called our World War III series. For those who weren't or unaware, Iran retaliated against Israel. Israel had blown up some of their people in Syria. Iran retaliated just to show like we're capable of retaliating. And Israel is now saying that they're going to retaliate against the retaliation. So we'll talk about all that Tuesday. Basically, we're getting closer to World War III. It's just no other way to put it. So we'll deal with that Tuesday. And I do have a couple of radical reports that I'm working on that'll be released. So this week, I know I said that I would get you all at least 4 pieces of content a month. I'm behind, so I'm just get on that because I actually got a goal of how much content I want to put out this month, and I'm behind. So all right, that's all that. Now let's get to tonight's discussion, because I really don't want to be on more than 2 hours. I really don't want to be on but an hour. And the reason, all right, well, of course, the main reason I wanted to look at OJ because he transitioned. But the reason I wanted to look at him is because I think when I started thinking about him, he's so much a kind of, like I said, a prototype of the modern athlete. And I just want to look at this picture here real quick, because this shows where he could have been and who he could have been, right? See if I can make that a little bit bigger. This is Orenthal James Simpson in, I believe, 1968, 1969. That's his wife. Beautiful sister. You know, it's the 60s, late 60s, everybody rocking their natural hair. Beautiful children, beautiful family. What more could the black man ask for, right? And as we know, that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. We needed more. He needed something else. I'm gonna just be honest. Just looking at this picture, you know what I'm saying? Kind of hard to upgrade from this woman. Just, you know what I'm saying? Just sometimes you have to accept the W. The message to black men out there, because sometimes we don't understand this. Sometimes you have to accept the victory. Sometimes you won. It's over. You have won. You got the W. Just try not to mess it up. Just let the clock run out, and the game is over, and you win. But this wasn't enough for Orenthal James Simpson. So he went from that to, and I actually don't even have a picture of Nicole. I don't even know her maiden name, to be honest. But when I saw this picture, it just struck me, because I was like, everybody looks happy. Everything looks functional. Everything is all right. But, you know, the fame thing, man, it gets you. And like one thing that we forget, because even I forgot, I wasn't sure. This man has been successful from the time he got in college, because we go back, OJ Simpson, 1968, Heisman Trophy winner. I couldn't remember. I was like, OJ won the Heisman? And then I went and looked. Heisman Trophy winner, USC starting running back at a time when USC was known as, I think they were basically called like running back U. Brother Kevin said he fumbled his black family. Absolutely. You know, And basically, he was almost standing in the end zone. So he fumbled it, and somebody picked it up and ran it back 99 yards in the other direction. And I bet if you looked at him then in that picture, now mind you, I believe he was still in college when that picture was. Well, no, because the children too old. My bad. But when he met his wife, let's go back. Let's look. Marguerite, I believe her name is. They met when they were together in college, and so right there, he's still in his 20s. I mean, he's in the prime of his life. Man, it kind of saddened me to look at this picture because in a way you had it all, because by this time he was a professional athlete, he was successful, he was a Heisman Trophy winner, he has a black wife, black family, he's making money. Now obviously athletes didn't make the kind of money that they made then now, and yet that still wasn't enough. Now, for those who are just, aren't familiar with the before the trial of the century OJ, that's the reason why I'm going through this stuff. That's the reason I'm showing his accolades, Heisman Trophy. Again, Pro Football Hall of Fame class in 1985. 5 All-Pro selections, 14,000 yards rushing, 4 rushing titles, 11,000 yards. Well, 11,000 yards rushing, 14,000 combined in 11 seasons. So he played 11 years. He had 4 rushing titles in 11 years, 5 Pro Bowl selections in 11 years. So that's like making a Pro Bowl every other year. I mean, and at a time when the running back was the premier position in football, right? Now, he came in before the explosion of the popularity of football. But realistically, it wasn't during his career. This is what people miss. It wasn't during his career. It was right at the end of his career when he started to transition to television, Hollywood, and getting endorsements, right? That you started to see the transition. That's where you have the breakup with his wife, I believe in 1979. And then he, people forget, OJ was in Hollywood. He was an actor, somewhat, wasn't the greatest actor in the world by no stretch of the imagination. Like, he wasn't Carl Weathers. Like, Carl Weathers transitioned to being a full-fledged, competent actor. But Carl Weathers wasn't half the football player OJ was. And you know what I'm saying? So, I just wanted to lay that as a background and to show people, because it's hard in the post-Jordan era, it's hard for people to grasp that there was a time when just because you were an athlete didn't mean you didn't get commercials, didn't mean that you got TV show that. No, to be honest, as wild as it sounds, when I actually thought about it, I'm like, OJ Simpson set up a lot of this. He became, because he wasn't a champion, but he became the acceptable Negro. And when he became the acceptable Negro and he enjoyed that acceptance, that's when he decided to step on over to the other side. That's when he decided to ditch his wife. That's how he ended up with this cokehead white broad, which leads to him not being able to get along with her, because in many ways he was having the Jonathan Majors discussions with her before Jonathan Majors was born. You out here on drugs, you doing this, you embarrassing me, blah, 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 this and that. That's where a lot of the conflict comes in, right? Because let's make no mistake, there was a acrimonious relationship with him and Nicole, because he thought he was upgrading, getting a white woman. But let's just be honest. Just because she's white doesn't mean she's more cultured, intelligent, less of a whore, or any of those things. And in reality, most of the time, it means the exact opposite. Just keep it 100. You know what I'm saying? So had he just simply stayed with his wife, right? And to be, this is the bad part. Now, I don't know. But a lot of women, a lot of times at that time, if you just, as long as you didn't embarrass them and you had taken care of home and the money and taking care of them, at that time, women would even let you step out. You just can't be out here making them look crazy. Apparently that wasn't enough, right? And so that leads to what ends up happening. But I wanted to just show this clip real quick. I just want to show this Hertz commercial, because if you're not a certain age, you never saw this commercial. But I want to show it so you people could see how much of a celebrity he was, because that sets up for people to understand the reaction and the hatred later on. It's not just because OJ was black. It's because they had accepted him and then everything happened. That's why he's still hated to this day. Like, look in the comment section underneath videos about OJ, you'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna load up this Hertz commercial so we can see. Now this is from I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this is from 1976.
Does it better than Hertz?
Nobody does it better. Hertz leads the others by far. Nobody does it best of all. You Hertz, the superstar.
Nobody has more of what it takes to rid you of Fairmont, Mustang, LTD, or other fine car faster.
Hertz, the superstar.
You know it.
This computer.
Yeah, so now the significance of that is the fact that in the 70s, like, I'm trying to think of the people that I know had commercials that I remember, and I know there was a famous Coke commercial with Mean Joe Green. I don't think that was before OJ, but maybe it was. I don't know. I just remember that was a famous commercial. And that was the short version. I know there was another version where he was running through the entire airport. Like, he was hurdling stuff and dodging people, and I could have sworn there was a spin move in there somewhere. So I didn't see that one. But you got to think about it. Think about now how many, for example, Jordan, when Jordan got his own commercial. And then now think about how many athletes you see with commercials and stuff like that. Like the NFL now, I'll say there's at least 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks who have multiple endorsement deals, and some of them may be on a local level, so you don't see them as much. But that wasn't for a young black athlete to have endorsement deals, and that's not the only one, and have their own commercials was a big deal at the time. So in a way, he was a trailblazer, right? But again, how much of his black self did he have to give up for that? Well, it looks like he was willing to give up his entire black self for that. Okay, thank you, sister, for the donation. I greatly appreciate that. And by the way, Sister Nina, did you happen to check out the lecture? Because I did send it to you. Just let me know, at least let me know that you got it. So that was the reason I showed that, is because that was a sign of his acceptance, right? And then after that, he started making movies. He was in, I know he was in some comedy movies. I can't remember the name of them, but he was in movies. And he was doing commentary on, he was doing sideline reporting. I don't know what network, but he was doing sideline reporting. So he had a very thriving post football career. After his marriage, after his football career, he had a thriving, and as that went on, and then the movies and everything else in the 80s, he became a bigger I put it like this: he maintained his celebrity status. Because I wasn't really around, so I can't measure how famous he was in the 60s and 70s. But I would think that he may have been even more famous in the early 80s at the end and his post career than he was in the 70s, just because media was getting bigger and the NFL was getting more popular than I'm sure it was in the 70s. I'm sure that NFL was more popular in the 80s and into the 90s than it was then, because the NFL's popularity is just kind of had a steady upward trajectory, and it has eclipsed the other sports. So that's where he was headed. So when you see the reaction to OJ in the midst of what was called then the trial of the century, that's why. Yes, you can, or even better, email me your just send me an email and I'll have your email address like that. Just send it as it's going across the screen here, dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. So now I wanted to set that up. Now, of course, we get to the life-altering event and kind of the, how can I put it? It was a life-altering event for him. And it was an event that helped define the 90s, right? So everybody, and I don't know why I didn't know this, but everybody who was around remembers the slow Bronco chase, right? And where his buddy AC Al Cowan was driving the white Bronco around LA, and the police were chasing him, but not really chasing him because he wasn't driving fast or erratic or anything. And that whole thing. And that set up the case where, of course, he was arrested and accused of offing his by then ex-wife, Nicole Brown, right? Nicole Brown Simpson. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. And you say even Ford made money, yeah. Yeah, everybody made money off that. But that trial, one of the things that we forget, because I forgot, one of the things we forget is, if we look at the time frame when it happened, it was only a couple of years after this event. The 1992 Los Angeles riots. Now the thing about LA is they have uprisings so often that you have to put the year in to delineate from the other the other uprising or the other uprising, right? So just want to remind people, 2 years before the OJ thing, in the wake of the Rodney King verdict, where Rodney King was, if you look up beaten senseless in the dictionary, there should be a video of them beating Rodney King. Like, people had, black people have been talking about police violence since publicly, since at least the days of Malcolm X at that time, right? He had been talking about it, of course, the Panthers say it ain't no more talking. And so that had been a thing. But of course, Europeans, they never want to hear it. The media never want to validate it. So that being on video was a huge event because it validated what black people around America had been saying about the brutality that we face from the police, like I said, for 2-3 decades before that, right? So that was a huge event. And so for black people, it was like, see, we got him. We finally got him. We told you the police are criminals. And again, remind you, this is Los Angeles, where I'm not sure, if I'm not mistaken, and bro, you got Rico, let me know. If I'm not mistaken, the Ramparts case in LA, I think had already taken place, right? If I'm not mistaken. And so either way, LAPD was known for being corrupt. Yeah, it's just plain and simple, right? They beat Rodney King in a manner that was so like unto slavery, other than the fact that they replaced whips with billy clubs. That man was getting beaten. It was almost like they were passing him around in a circle, like some type of soccer or kickball or something or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Where he rolling around, like they hitting him on one side and he trying to roll away from getting hit from that guy, and he rolling the other direction. And then that person try to bust him upside the head. Then he try to roll away from that one, and that one try to bust him upside the head. And they had a beating fest. It was like a instead of a feeding frenzy, it was a beating frenzy, right? So again, all this was caught on video. Everybody saw it. So black people are like, all right, cool. We got him. We've been telling y'all, told y'all the police is corrupt. Now we're gonna see some justice, right? And I'm laughing because I mean, what other evidence you need? And I wish I had downloaded the video, but what other evidence do you need? And nonetheless, they were acquitted. I mean, Ice Cube made songs. We gonna tear this MF up, and they had took the case out to Simi Valley, which is like basically Whitesville. I believe he was in South Central when they beat him, if I'm not mistaken. So South Central just erupted. They just like, all right, enough is enough. And people just, they were sick of it because they couldn't believe it. It was black people just believed that, all right, we're gonna finally get some justice. So that set the racial scene for the OJ trial, right? Because a lot of people, if you look backwards in time and you don't know, that's why I'm setting all this up, you'll be like, well, why were black people excited that OJ got off? That wasn't it. It was like, okay, finally we get a victory. We get one. Y'all been beating us. killing us, uh, all types of stuff. Police shooting us down like dogs and locking us up for no reason and planting drugs on people and all this stuff. And now y'all thought y'all had an easy mark, an easy victory. You gonna get a black celebrity and lock him up and make him the face of crime and murder and all this stuff. And Johnny Cochran came in and said, "Not so fast, my friend." And white people want to throw up. They were literally physically sick to their stomach, right? So what I'm gonna do real quick, I'm gonna show a couple of clips from the trial, so you can get a kind of feel for the O.J. Simpson trial, in where he's tried for the what they say on YouTube now, unaliving Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. And so we're gonna load up this first one with the whole glove situation.
All right, is there anything further from the people?
At this time, subject to the receipt of the people's exhibits into evidence, the people rest.
It's still O.J. Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Now, that is one of the clips, and you got to see a little bit of Johnny Cochran. Sister Nina said Rodney King lived about 10 minutes away from your grandparents' home. Wow, that's crazy. So the next clip I wanted to show real quick is I wanted to show Marsha Clark, who is, get my music back on first. Marsha Clark, I believe she was the lead prosecutor in the case, white female. And I don't know if y'all remember this, but does anybody remember the black dude, Christopher Darden, crying after they lost? Did y'all remember that? Like, the level of cooning all around during that case was wild. Like, he was literally crying because they lost, because I don't know, man. I guess he just thought they had a slam dunk in the bag, or he just felt the pain of the Brown Goldman families and so forth and so on. But my bad. Yeah, before I get to Marsha Clark, because I actually got to set this up. I don't know how I forgot this. This case encapsulated so much of the racial atmosphere of America, because one of the key people in the case was Officer Mark Furman. And Officer Mark Furman was a white supremacist. Just plain and simple. And Officer Mark Furman was the first on the scene. He breached OJ's house, because OJ had a fence, and it was a gated community and everything. He breached his house. He was the one that, quote unquote, found the incriminating evidence. You know what I'm saying? There was a question about collection of evidence about him getting I think he had I can't remember, he had blood spatter somewhere on him that made it questionable whether or not he had transferred evidence to the scene, right? And so there was a lot of stuff with that. And this was before DNA was basically standard in the case. Now, it was always, when I thought about it, I was like, it was weird to me that if they had the hat that they said they found at OJ's house, or I think Mark Furman said he found it. if you're doing forensics, how come nobody did no hair? Because I remember the case that never came up. Because that would have been the easiest thing. You were like, you found Negro hair, but that never came up. So there's a lot of things. Basically, they shot themselves in the foot with their shoddy investigation, and it's, to me, it's one of those cases where you start off with, as they always do, who's the person dealing with and who's the ex, and you zero in on the person and you don't do any investigation, and you don't even do enough investigation to prove your case, and then you sit up here looking stupid, because especially in a case where a person can actually afford competent lawyers. Again, if O.J. Simpson was regular black dude, he's getting an electric chair. Just be completely honest. If a random black dude who cannot afford Johnny Cochran and what's the name's father, the little whore broad, y'all know what I'm talking about, that Kanye's ex-wife, her father, Kardashian. If OJ can't afford those people, oh nah, it's a wrap. It don't even matter. Like, that case would have lasted 3 days from investigation to trial. Like, you know what I'm saying? But having competent counsel, in America, it makes a difference. Having the right to a trial and having the right to a lawyer are not the same as having the right to a trial and having the right to a competent attorney who knows what they're doing. Those are two different things. Having an attorney and having a competent attorney are not the same. So Mark Fuhrman, who, I mean, basically they had tapes of him saying racist stuff, so it was not debatable whether or not he was a redneck. It was just a matter of, was he such a redneck that he would plant evidence? Now, if there's a black man, a famous black man, who is accused of deleting a white woman, and the first police officer is a known redneck on the scene, if you're the prosecution, you in bad shape already. You know what I'm saying? In that racial environment in Los Angeles, 2 years after an uprising, you in bad shape. You got to come correct. And they didn't. And so what I wanted to do, I wanted to show Marsha Clark's closing argument, and then follow that up with Johnny Cochran's closing argument.
Said that Ms. Clark, on behalf of the people or the prosecution, prepared to proceed their opening argument.
Yes, Your Honor, we are.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We got pieces of boards and exhibits everywhere in this courtroom. All right, now, all I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, is
Graphics were to be displayed to us, and we had people here this morning at 8 o'clock. It said 8 o'clock this morning. We're now seeing them at about 9:20 thereafter, so they're more than an hour and 20 minutes later. I point that out because of the fact that Mr. Harris.
let me first, I want to take this opportunity to thank you. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You have been through so much. You have made a tremendous sacrifice. You haven't seen your children enough. You haven't seen your family enough. You haven't seen your loved ones enough. And all of this in the name of justice, in the service of justice. Your dedication and your selflessness are truly beyond the pale. No one can say that any jury has sacrificed more for the cause of justice than you have. And I want you to know sincerely, from my heart, I appreciate it.
We start with the arguments of the attorneys. However, we are now ready to commence.
And let me come back to Mark Fuhrman for a minute, just so it's clear. Did he lie when he testified here in this courtroom, saying that he did not use racial epithets in the last 10 years? Yes. Is he a racist? Yes. Is he the worst LAPD has to offer? Yes. Do we wish that this person was never hired by LAPD? Yes. Should LAPD have ever hired him? No. Should such a person be a police officer? No. In fact, do we wish there were no such person on the planet? Yes.
Clark, this is People's Exhibit.
People's Exhibit 26, Your Honor. The question is what the evidence that was presented to you that relates to who killed Ron and Nicole, what does that tell you? Does that convince you beyond a reasonable doubt? No matter how much more qualified or how much better they could have done their job, still in all, did they present enough evidence to you? Did the evidence come to you in sufficient quantity and convincing force to convince you that the defendant committed these murders beyond a reasonable doubt? Ladies and gentlemen, I submit to you that we have more than met our burden in this case. As the witnesses have testified, in a very unusual mood.
Now, that was her, that was like a culmination of, I guess, the highlights, if you will, of Marcia Clark's presentation. Now, I am going to load up Mr. Cochran. I believe this is his final summation of the case.
Last night about this case and their theory and how it didn't make any sense and how it didn't fit and how something is wrong. It occurred to me how they were going to come here and stand up here and tell you how O.J. Simpson was going to disguise himself. Was going to put on a knit cap and some dark clothes, and he was going to get in his white Bronco and this recognizable person and go over and kill his wife. That's what they want you to believe. That's how silly their argument is. And I said to myself, maybe I can demonstrate this graphically. Let me show you something. This is a knit cap. I'm going to put this knit cap on. And you've been seeing me for a year. If I put this knit cap on, who am I? I'm still Johnny Cochran with a knit cap. And if you look at O.J. Simpson over there, and he has a rather large head, O.J. Simpson in a knit cap from 2 blocks away is still O.J. Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. It reminded me that there was testimony early on that Detective Lang had refused basically to pick up a knit cap inside the Brown residence. That was shown to him, I think, by some of the lawyers and one of the investigators on that date, because these are fairly common. But they don't really disguise anybody who's noticeable, do they? And although I was the guinea pig here this afternoon, if you were to put a knit cap on, how's that going to disguise you? We've been together. I'd know your face anywhere now, and you'd know mine. And the people in Brentwood, in West Los Angeles, would know O.J. Simpson. They know his car. They know him. That's where he lives. Even the prosecutors say he's so famous that he can't go anywhere where he wouldn't be recognized.
So, those were the 2 closing arguments. Now, and you have to spend time explaining how, even though one of the people that found key pieces of evidence and one of the lead investigators on the case is indeed racist, but don't let that sway you from the fact that he was the one that collected the evidence. Don't let that make you think the evidence is tainted. You're kind of in bad shape. You know what I'm saying? So, and the fact that you have to justify the racism of a policeman when it's almost, we're a few years away from the 21st century. You're in bad shape. But I just wanted to show the climate of the trial, right? Like, and this was called the trial of the century at that time. And it's hard to it's hard to quantify now. This was on TV every day. It was on the radio. It was talked about every day. You know, the media was outside. The media, they let them have the cameras on inside. Like I said, O.J. Simpson was still a fairly large celebrity, not on, you know, not like a mega star like the people of that time, like Michael Jackson, or not like that, or Michael Jordan, but still, like, he was a celebrity. And then this just, because it was salacious and it involved a lot of stuff, you know, interracial dating and, you know, unaliving people. It was the story at that time. Now, mind you, if I'm not mistaken, the trial was mere weeks before the Million Man March. If I have my timelines correct, one of the brothers in here, Brother Crow, or one of the other brothers, can correct me if I'm wrong with that. But I believe toward the end, I believe that was 95. It was either 94 or 95. And as we saw, or will see, the reaction between black people and white people were the complete and total opposite. And ever since that day, white people have vowed to get OJ. And in some weird way, him being acquitted, I think it added 10 years of racial hatred in the heart of white people. I'm just being completely honest. I know that sounds crazy. Like that, you know, you had that in the Million Man March. That just took the racial hatred up to, like, if it wasn't for 9/11, where they had to focus some of their hatred on, you know, Arabs and stuff, who knows how bad the early 2000s would have been racially. Because we did see more police killings, and it wasn't nowhere near, I don't think the outrage was as big nationally as it was with the Rodney King thing, because we didn't get to see those. So when Amadou Diallo was it Amadou Diallo? Now, which one? All right, some of the brothers help me out. One of the brothers got violated by the police, and then one of them got shot down, and then Sean, his brother, got murdered on right before his wedding in New York. Like, all this stuff was happening in New York, and it was like, in my mind, all that stuff seemed to be back to back to back in New York with the police. I mean, the 90s, when I thinking back on it now, the police killings and the riots and the Million Man March, and man, there was so much stuff going on in the 90s. Sean Bell, they murdered the brother. Literally, police just murdered him for no reason. Just no. I didn't know that was shook me. Because it was crazy, because he was literally not doing anything, and they just murdered that brother. But yeah, the 90s, man, the racial tensions of the 90s, the closest thing, like when Trayvon got murdered, that was like the closest thing to like the 90s, where all of a sudden, like, you saw a new generation of black people. Like, the Trayvon thing basically made a new generation of black people realize, oh, what our parents been saying about this racism stuff, this stuff is still in effect. this racial harmony and this integration, this nonsense that I've been learning in school, that's not real. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember meeting people, and a lot of people woke up around that time, and a lot of people started joining movements and organizations and stuff because, and there's that those people at that time were like people, they were college age people, and people late high school, or people just out of college. So a lot of young people at that time, and now that's been a decade, who kind of realized like, oh, you know, things aren't what I thought they were, right? Because, you know, it's 21st century. You hear somebody talking about the 60s and 70s and this and that. Yeah, it sounds like ancient history until it starts happening again, and you realize, oh, everything they were telling me, those things are still in effect. So like I said, the riots preceded the OJ case, and when the OJ verdict happened, I was kind of, I remember I was at work, and I was like, you know, it didn't matter to me, because in that time, it was different then. At that time, when people went off to Coon, they went off to white world. Like OJ went off to white world. He married a white woman. He went and hung out with white people. He lived in white society. He lived on the white side of town. All that. That's what he did, and that was the standard of that day. Like, you didn't have people cooning by trying to tell you how pro-black they were while they got 2 white wives and 7 white kids. Like that. That wasn't what people were doing. They went over there and they disappeared over there. Now, in the case of OJ, when something happened, then it's like, I need to go back to black people, right? Because that did happen. OJ Simpson did come back. He was seen at black churches. He was seen at black events with Brother Crow sent me one with Steve Coakley. He was speaking with Steve Coakley, and I believe Tony Muhammad from Muhammad Mosque number 27, I believe, is the Los Angeles Mosque. So OJ did do that. And I was like, I'm not gonna lie, even then I was like, okay, you come running back, whatever. However y'all want to carry it is how what I was thinking. I wasn't an OJ advocate then, nor am I now. I'm just speaking about the historical significance of his life, which, weirdly enough, it's almost like a Forrest Gump thing. You know what I'm saying? When somebody just find themselves in the middle of major historical events. But there were black people who were celebrating, like, yes, finally, we got a victory. And white people, like I said, were literally crying. Okay? Like, real tears. You know what I'm saying? Like, looking like they were physically ill, about to vomit. And so I do have a clip that shows a reaction that's real quick, and I'm just going to show the reaction to the OJ Simpson verdict. Oh, my bad. Oh.
I think it's great. He deserves to go free. They had no evidence on him.
So much evidence to deliberate for as short as they did and come back with a not guilty verdict. I think it shows the jury was pretty irresponsible, and money can buy you justice. Exactly.
Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of
I think this jury sent a message that the time has come here in Los Angeles and in America that indeed there must be a level playing field for everybody.
And I'm just don't think justice was served. I don't think the jury did their job. I think they knew what they were going to do from the gate. I think it was racist based, and it was racist from the black point of view.
The inspirational closing argument, the inspirational presence of Mr. Cochran. If this was a not guilty,
I just feel that, I mean, in my mind, he was guilty, and I really feel sorry for the families. I think I'm going to cry. I just, you know, this is our system, and if they found him not guilty, there's nothing we can do.
See, y'all thought I was joking when I said white people was crying. That's literally, she's like, I'm going to cry. You know? And so that was the atmosphere in the midst of the crime of the century. Brother, a real black gentleman said he stayed home from school. Hey man, you know, it was wild. I would love greetings to Sister Nefertaria. Sister Nina, let us know what it was like in LA then. If you still in the chat, just let us know what the atmosphere is like, because I can only imagine what the atmosphere was like in LA. Because, like I said, I was at work and we heard it over the radio. It's funny because I was actually at lunch. You know, like one of my first real jobs, I was at lunch and one of my co-workers, she started hollering and jumping up and down. I'm looking at her like, okay. You know, and she was much older than me. Like she probably around the age I am now, and I was in my early 20s. So yeah, goodness, I was in my early 20s. Wow. Anyway, so yeah, and then you know, people we were in the carryout. You know, it's DC. We were in the carryout, and people in the carryout, like, you know, they hooping and hollering like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. And man, it was wild. And it's kind of hard for people who weren't alive pre-internet. It's hard for you to understand how things can go. It's hard to remember. It's hard to understand how different it was for something to go quote unquote viral pre-internet. Like, but there were some shared experiences in the pre-internet era because those things were covered on all of the limited media we had. They were covered on all of them. And the OJ case is one of those where if you turned on your TV, that case was on. Excuse me. If you turned on the radio, updates to that case was on. If you read a newspaper, you know, discussions about that case were taking place. Like that, it was everywhere. Sister Nefertaria says she was in high school when the verdict was concluded, and all the classmates were happy and shouting. But it was told, yeah, I mean, because the adults were happy and shouting, and I was just looking at them like, okay. Like I said, to me, it wasn't. I just put it like this: I wasn't a fan of OJ. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't a fan of OJ. So yeah. And Sister Nina said there was a lot of tension for a while, and then after about a month, things went back to normal. Well, here's the funny thing: did you say that after about a month? Because if I'm not mistaken, after about a month was the Million Man March. Weirdly, I know that either, brother, you got ripped off. Can you? Okay, Sister Nefertari saying the same thing, right? Yeah, that's what I'm like. I'm like literally like a month later, or less than a month later, was the Million Man March, which somebody remind me, because it's a long time from now. Remind me to do a retrospective on the Million Man March. in October. Just somebody, it's recorded. Somebody remind me. We gotta talk about that. We gotta talk about that. And there's some things about right. Okay, that's less than 2 weeks. The verdict came October 5th, 1995. That's less than 2 weeks from the Million Man, before the Million Man March. We gotta talk about the Million Man March. There's some things about Minister Farrakhan we gotta talk about, because I don't want to be accused of talking bad about the minister when he ain't here. So some things that need to be put on the table while he's here, and I may do that on May 11th. We have questions, and we need to put those things on the table. If you have the 2019 lecture, you know what I'm talking about. If you have the 2019 Dr. Collins lecture, if you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched it, but you like Sister Nina and you sent your money, like, sister, as soon as you email me, I'll send that out to you. Because you already earned it. But yeah, that was the environment that the whole OJ phenomenon caused. And so, now that he is no longer here, the the celebration from white people, it was funny to me, because you realize one thing about them: forgiveness and forgetting. No, sir. That is not, they don't believe in that at all. And of course, we know he ended up, how many years did he serve? 5 years or whatever it was, for allegedly stealing his own property. Now, you know they mad when they like, you gonna go to jail. I don't care what you talking about. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care how much celebrity you got. You're going to jail. Even if we had to come up with something else. Like, when that man went to jail for stealing his own property, I'm like, yo, this is wild, man. They don't forgive or forget anything. Like, they gonna get their lump of flesh one way or the other. And that was I remember that thing was it was so ridiculous. Like, you couldn't do nothing but shake your head. Just like you just like, man, 5 years, 5 years and 3 years probation for stealing his own property. And he mentioned it. He's like, man, I'm gonna steal my own property. This is my property. They like, shut up, and you know what I'm saying? I should be laughing because it's funny, because it's so ridiculous, man. It just goes to show one thing about white folks, man. If they feel like you got over or did some injustice, or you did something to them and they didn't get their get back, they getting their get back. If you breathing, they getting their get back. You know what I'm saying? I think I saw today that they said they were going to cremate him. I was like, yeah. At first I was like, why would they do that? I mean, but then I thought about it. I was like, police are still shooting. This was crazy. This is how they are. This is how vindictive, man, people can be. Our brother Fred Hampton, they shoot at his grave. Fred Hampton ain't do nothing to the police. You know what I'm saying? Like, they said, and I know it's the police. These people weren't even alive, and they desecrate that man's grave. So good and well. Once I thought about it, I was like, you know what? They probably could afford to build a big giant mausoleum for OJ and have it for the whole family and had the family buried there. But they was like, nah, they're gonna cremate him. And at first I was like, why would y'all cremate him? But when I thought about it, can you imagine the money that would be spent, the insurance money that his family would collect to rebuild his grave every day? Like, let's be honest. white people would make pilgrimages to disrespect his grave if he was buried. They would knock over the headstones. Hey, they might dig him up. So when I saw this family were like, they're gonna cremate him, at first I was like, that was weird. But when I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I get it. They understand how much how much hate he's gonna get. Man, it's crazy. Is Brown a small hat name? Goldman definitely is. Goldman is definitely a hat name. Right. Brown, it can be. A lot of times when you see like colors and stones and stuff like that. A lot of those are hat names. Say just waiting for the OJ docu series. Yeah, I don't know how much I don't know how much I don't know how much white people would even want to relive that. So there may not be a docu series. Brother Crow, you said Furman's a hat? That makes perfect sense, man. I hadn't even checked or thought about it in any way, shape, or form, but I wouldn't be surprised. But because he was like that dude. I mean, you saw it. The prosecutor literally had to spend time saying, "Yeah, I know he's racist, but we still got evidence." You know what I'm saying? Like that's crazy when you think about it. Like, yeah, I know the dude that jumped over the fence and found the evidence that is the most that implicates the defendant the most was found by a dude that's blatantly and obviously racist. But don't let that, don't let that color your view of the case. I mean, oh my god, I don't know. It's just funny to me, man, to see that, and you just like, lady, are you serious right now? You're literally trying to tell me that the racist white cop who found the evidence, I should just ignore that, but I should accept the evidence. Okay, we'll talk about it when we get to the back room, but it's not looking good. Add that to the 5 minutes it took OJ to put on those gloves and our brother putting on that hat. Like, this hat ain't fooling nobody, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was really funny when he said it. He's like, come on, man. This dude, he's like, come on, man. This is one of the most famous people in the world. This hat ain't fooling nobody. Oh man, I don't know why. Y'all forgive me for laughing. It's just funny to me that because oh my goodness, man. Because Johnny Cochran had them out here looking crazy. Yeah, he had them out here looking ridiculous, man. And whatever you think of the case, one thing is for sure. Johnny Cochran proved to be one of the best litigators that we produced in the 20th century because he made the LA County District Attorney's office look like complete imbeciles in that case. And that's not easy to do to any major district attorney's office because especially at that time, the assumption is that the police and the district attorney are competent and honest. That is what most people think coming into a case. And he made it so that they had to defend themselves, defend not only their competence, but their honesty, their integrity, and their lack of racial bias, which is kind of impossible in the wake of the Rodney King thing. So that Rodney King situation played so much into the atmosphere that the OJ thing went into that you can make the argument that if the Rodney King case doesn't happen, that OJ still goes to jail because it would be harder to prove, even knowing that Furman's racist, it would still be harder to prove that the racism was endemic to LAPD, at least to non-black people. Like black people already know, but the non-black people. And I can't recall the makeup of the jury. I just don't remember, being completely honest, what the makeup of the jury was. But that, the Rodney King, the riots, the atmosphere of the early 90s, the latent militancy that was in black people because of, especially young people, because of the music, the different organizations that were out that were, spreading different ideologies. I mean, it was akin to the 2010s. Like, for everybody that's young, if you remember the 2010s, and you remember how black people seem to start to wake up, and like I said, the Trayvon case woke people up, and different people were getting knowledge, and people saw hidden colors, and some people started joining organizations, and people were watching Sonetta stuff, so forth, so on. It was similar to that, except the key difference being we had more sincere teachers, scholars, and leaders. Now, make no mistake, we had some of these people were actually worse than scammers, because we've talked about Dr. York. He was worse than a scammer. If he was only a scammer, that would have been cool, but he's a pedophile. So, but yeah, we did have those people too, but we did have some sincere people on the scene. Again, Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben, up until that year, Amos Wilson was still around. Dr. Shaka Musa Barshango, Dale Jones, Steve Coakley, Dr. Welsing. Like, we had, Mama Marimba Ani. We had a long list of people who were helping to spread awareness and consciousness. Of course, Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, Nation of Islam, was real strong at that time. We had a plethora of people who were raising our consciousness, and it was still at that time, probably literally up until that time, where the music was helping to raise our consciousness. Before, that's right around the time where the industry heads or the industry hats began to propagate a different message and spirit in hip hop. Even though it started with NWA, it took a long time for that to completely reverse. So, and Brother Crow says Johnny Cochran was also Geronimo G. Jaga Pratt's attorney, right? And got him free, and he didn't charge him for legal fees, right? No, Johnny Cochran is one of our, he's low key one of our giants. He's one. Let me put that up. Brother. Johnny Cochran was low key one of our giants, and if I remember correctly, excuse me, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Late in his life, if I remember correctly, he was putting together the legal framework for a reparations case for Black people in America, if I'm not mistaken. And brother, you got ripped off. And if you can find something on that, can you put that up on the screen? I know I heard that somewhere, but I don't know who I heard it from, and because it's been so long. But yeah, Johnny Cochran was you say he transitioned shortly after the announcement. Well, you just answered the question of how he transitioned then, if that's the case. But yeah, he's like, Johnny Cochran was one of our giants and low-key one of our unsung heroes. And at that time, Man, I just think about it. Like we had real people, and people kind of knew the real people to look out to. Like we didn't have flim flam artists like Black Lives Matter at that time. And sometime either this week or next week, I was talking, brother, you got ripped off. I'm gonna do a show called How to Spot. I don't know if I'm calling it How to Spot a Scammer or How to Spot Insincere Leadership. I don't know, something like that. I don't know if you all heard about it. The whole Tulsa, what do they call the thing? The Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I believe that's what it's called. You know, they collected a lot of money starting in 2018. I didn't really pay attention to it at the time because, you know, SBPM was doing their own thing, and anything that wasn't like related to us or wasn't connected to us, I didn't pay any attention because if they didn't support us, you know, I didn't have time at the time to support them, whoever, regardless of who they were. So anyway, I heard recently that they had collected $11 million. Last time I checked, they had 0.5 million left, or 500, you know, a little over 500,000. And now I've heard that they are selling the jewel of it, something they call the Black House. And so a lot of people who invested a lot of money, their money just disappeared. In that situation, Jay Morrison, and we gonna call the names out because other people already called it out. Jay Morrison was he became the CEO. Somebody told me that he was the CEO, the COO, and the CFO. I've never heard no actual corporation run like that. Like that's like a sole proprietorship. But it's not a sole proprietorship because you help you crowdfunded other people's money, and suddenly everything just disappeared off the face of the earth. So we'll talk about that, and we'll just talk about the things to look for from sincere Black leadership and things to be wary of. You see what I'm saying? So I'm not sure the day I'm gonna do that. Tuesday, as I said, I'm going to do we're just gonna talk about this World War III. I don't know how any other way to talk about it. We're just gonna talk about this World War III and update what's going on, because the way things are going, it's possible by the time we get to Tuesday that something else is taking place over there, or it's possible something has taken place here. I'll say this now, and this is one of those things where I like to be wrong. Y'all don't know how many times I actually like to be wrong and it doesn't work out. Don't be surprised if later this year, if we don't see a false flag here in America that helps rally America for war in the Middle East in support of Israel. Don't be surprised if it's made to look like Iran or Hamas or something like that. And yeah, I'm just saying it's probably not really going to be Hamas or Iran. So all I'm going to say, you know what I'm saying? Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully it's not something major, but don't be surprised if that takes place. So we'll talk about that more on Tuesday. On Monday, I'm working on a radical report. There's a couple of different ones I'm working on, so I'm not sure which one is going to come out. I think one of them is one of them will be probably talking about Israel and Africa, and there's a case that happened where I just saw where a young sister went out on a date. First of all, she was very young. I think like 19. Went out on a date with some European, and he slaughtered her and chopped her up and all types of savage behavior. So definitely doing radical report on that. That'll probably be out Monday evening, the usual 8 o'clock slot. And it's possible that I may do two, one early and one late. Brother, you got ripped off says, hold on. Let me put it up. It says a powerful group of civil rights and class action lawyers who have won billions of dollars in court is preparing a lawsuit seeking reparations. Washington Post 2000. He says they formed a reparations assessment group, and among the members were Charles Ogletree, who was big back then, Mr. Cochran, Alexander J. Pyers, who won a $1 billion discrimination settlement for states against tobacco companies. Tennessee Sweet third won a $400 million settlement in the Finrin diet drug case, and William E. Gary, who won $500 million judgment against U.S. Department of Agriculture. So they had take that down. They had that was a hard hitting lineup of attorneys. And yeah. And I don't think anyone has actually looked into the demise of Mr. Cochran. And so with his transition, that effort just kind of quietly went away from what I remember. I don't remember hearing anything after that. So it just goes to show, man, that doing a case study of OJ's life, it leaked into a lot of different things, and he lived in interesting times and lived a interesting life. And if he had just stuck with this picture that's on our screen, he would just be regular, successful, happy black athlete. But he chose to do other things and nothing else. He'll go down in history as one of the most famous people of the 20th century. Whether you like him or you hate him, that much is true. So, brothers and sisters, that is our case study on Orenthal James Simpson and his effect on race relations in America. So I will definitely see you all Tuesday for another live stream. And like I said, I'm working on a couple of radical reports. So be on the lookout. Make sure you turn on the notifications. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dcradical_one. Follow me on OTWTube at dcradical1. If you'd like to donate, you can donate via Cashapp, $dcradical1. And you need to email me at dc.radical_one at protonmail.com. And there was something else I was getting ready to say, and I just lost my train of thought. I don't know what it is. So whatever it is I had to say, apparently, this is what I meant to say. More than likely, the Brother Genie interview is going to be taken down because I just had some content taken down from 2 years ago dealing with black people in the medical industry. That content was taken down by YouTube. That content will be up on my OTWTube page. You just put in OTWTube.com and DC Radical 1, it'll come up. That content is going up on the OTWTube page. The last Brother Genie lecture, the second half of that is going to go up, and this one is going to go up, because more than likely I'm going to either take this down or I'm going to make it private. I haven't decided yet. So if it disappears, if you see it and it disappears off the page, that's what happened, and just go over to the OTW tube to find it. So that's what I wanted to say. Now, with that, brothers and sisters, I thank you all for listening. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. You can donate via Cash App, $ DC Radical 1. I will see you all definitely on Tuesday. Look for new content tomorrow as well. And I will be following up with some more radical thoughts, because I have some radical thoughts based on some things that have been happening lately. And with that, I say a BB for ODA and straight black pride. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $ DC Radical 1. Again, thank you for subscribing. A BB for ODA and straight black pride.